I would like to share with us about the Good Shepherd and the dark valley from the book of Psalms 23 verse 4 that says, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." I grew up in the Kisii Highlands in western Kenya, where farming was common. It was my joy as a young boy to help out sometimes in the farm, especially taking care of my parents' sheep and cows. My best time of the day was at about noon when these animals had eaten enough, drank water, and took an afternoon break where they could lie down under the tree, shades, chewing the cud, and enjoying life. I could sit next to them feeling very satisfied. I would lead them back home before darkness and secure them for the night. I slept a happy boy, dreaming and planning for the following day. As a shepherd boy, I always wanted the best for my animals. I led them to the best grazing fields, clean rivers, and brought them back home in good time to avoid the dangers of the night. When I was reading the Bible and I came to Psalms 23, I was wondering why the shepherd in the text allowed his sheep to go through the valley of the shadows of death. I believe that the shepherd here must have had very good reasons why he allowed his sheep to go through such a dark, dangerous, and desperate valley. Many times in life, we find ourselves in similar situations. Clouds cover the sun over us. The lights are switched off. And hope turns into gloom. An exciting story that started in the sunny summer with the joy of lying down on green grass and being refreshed with cool waters turns into a winter of the valley of the shadow of death. We feel numb as if what is happening to us is not real. We fear for the future and get angry at people and even all the things around us. We may cry, doubt, regret, complain, question ourselves, and even question God. Dark valleys are not the best places to be. Jesus Christ himself went through a moment of darkness on the cross. For 3 hours, there was total darkness over the whole land. Jesus could not take it anymore. The darkness and the great pain that he was going through made him cry out to his God. And he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And God did not even respond. In such times, it's important to hold on to the person and the character of God, who is the Good Shepherd. He knows and cares about what you are going through right now. He has the power to get you through the dark valley. He will never leave you nor forsake you in the valley. He will be with you not only in the valley, but through the valley and even after the valley. The shepherd is not surprised that you are in the dark valley. I remember many times trying to lead our sheep through some paths, but some will resist, and I understood them. Maybe they were afraid of the path, or the path was new to them. But as a shepherd, I led them through because I knew where I wanted to take them. I had a good plan for them. The shepherd always knows and leads the sheep in the path they need to follow, not necessarily the path that they want to follow. He loves the sheep and has the best interest of them at heart. He must have a good reason to lead them through the dark valley surrounded with shadows of death. But the sheep may not understand sometimes. You may be in the middle of a dark valley right now, and you're wondering why God has led you in this valley. In the history of the Israelites, God allowed them at one time to go through a dark valley. They found themselves in slavery in Babylon. As they were going through the emotions and the realities of a difficult life, God sent them a message through his prophet Jeremiah saying, "I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." That is from Jeremiah 29 verse 11. The people of God were comforted by knowing that God knew about their current situation and he had a plan for them. He asked them to trust him, that those plans will bring prosperity and a good future to them. I want to give us an illustration of a tea bag in hot water to illustrate my point. Sometimes those plans are to bring the best out of us. In addition to keeping animals, we were also involved in tea farming when I was young. We could pluck the fresh tea leaves as a family and sell them to a local factory where they were processed and packed to be sold in the market. I took delight in the green, leafy looks of tea in the farms of Kisii Hills. It looks beautiful, I tell you. But I also knew that for tea to fulfill its purpose, the leaves, though they look so nice and beautiful, had to be plucked from the tea bush or the tea tree, dried, crushed, packed, and sent to people's homes to make tea. For people to enjoy the flavor and the sweetness of tea, they had to dip the small tea bag into hot water. If the green tea leaves in our farm were a person, they will probably cry, complain, and resist being plucked from their comfort zone on the tree or on the bush. But for them to fulfill their intended purpose, they have to go through the dark valley of the shadow of death. No experience is wasted when God is involved. The Bible reminds us in Romans 8:28 that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. It takes hot water for the tea bag to release its flavor and refresh those who are drinking the tea. Sometimes it takes the dark valley to help us grow in life and also in faith. But through it all, we can be sure of these three things: his presence, his power, and his care as a good shepherd. We can have confidence in his presence. A story is told of a small child who feared sleeping alone in her room. Her father suggested that he could allow her to sleep with the lights on if that could help her. But the daughter replied to his father and said, "Daddy, I prefer to have you with me in darkness rather than to be alone in the light without you." What a comfort to know that we are not alone in the dark valley. The shepherd, who is also our heavenly Father, is always with us. We have a promise from him in Hebrews 13 verse 5 that he will never leave us nor forsake us. This is the confidence that we have through difficulties. God is with us, and we can boldly say, "The Lord is my helper. I will not fear what man can do to me," as we read it from Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 6. Jesus one time attended a wedding at a place called Cana. The wedding party was rocking until they ran out of wine. Probably the host started panicking. Nobody wants their wedding party to be messed up by a situation where food and drink is not enough. It's embarrassing, to say the least. No one wishes to be messed up in their relationships, in their family, in their work, in their finances, or other areas of life and faith. All of us hope to have it good at all time in life. But the reality, my friends, is that sometimes the lights are switched off. The wine can run dry, and we are faced with a dark valley to walk through. That was not the end of the story in this wedding at Cana. Jesus was in the wedding. This is the most important part of the story. His presence saved the situation. He performed a miracle of turning water into wine, and the party continued happily thereafter. It does not matter how dark the valley is. The good shepherd promises to walk with us through it. We can count on his presence. What a joy to have faith in such a God. It is a wonderful resource to help us walk through difficult seasons in our lives. We can also have confidence in his power. Whenever I took care of our sheep in our small farm, I always had two items with me. I had a special long stick, and I also had what we call in Swahili a panga. It's a large, broad-bladed knife, and it's like a weapon. So I used this long knife to cut down the thorny bushes to make way for the sheep when there was a need. I also used it to defend myself and the sheep in case of an attack. In Psalm 23 verse 4, it talks about the shepherd's rod. We may not be sure how it looked in the time of David, but it was it was the item that David used to protect his sheep. David talked about dealing with lions and bears which attacked the sheep. If we read the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 34 and 35. As we go through the dark valley, we can be comforted that God will always protect us. He is able, he has all the weapons and the power, and is willing to keep us secure from danger and to protect us against any kind of attacks in this life. He promises in the book of Zechariah chapter 2 verse 5 that he himself is a protective wall of fire all around us. We can also have confidence in his care. I used the stick to guide the sheep in the way they should go. Sometimes the sheep needed a gentle tap on the side to move into the flock and keep them from going astray. Sometimes we find ourselves in the crossroads and we are confused in which way to follow. It may be a simple or a major decision in life that we need to make and we don't know what to do. We can find comfort in the fact that our good shepherd will use his staff, which is his word, to guide us. David shares his experience on how God guides us or guides him in Psalm 23. In verse 2, the Lord guides him to green pastures and cool waters. The shepherd cares enough to provide for his sheep. Going through a dark valley can be exhausting and very challenging, but God promises to provide you with both the spiritual and the physical resources that you need to go through the season. He is Jehovah Jireh, the Lord our provider. The Lord uses the staff to guide us in the paths of righteousness. We are all like sheep, and sometimes we get it wrong. We walk through the wrong way, according to the book of Isaiah chapter 53 verse 6. But God brings us back to the right way. He is willing to leave the 99, take his staff and rod, and come look for the one that has wandered off, according to Matthew chapter 18 verse 2. Verse 12. A story is told of a Sunday school boy who excellently recited Psalm 23 as a poem in his church, in a church meeting in his village. Everybody was impressed at his oratory skills and stood up and clapped for him after he had recited the Psalm 23. He was very happy and very elated. But after many years, the boy came back to the same church as an old man and requested once again to recite the same Psalm 23. He was not as eloquent this time, but took time to take a break and reflect on every statement of every verse that he was reciting. By the end of verse 6, he was shedding tears. He had lived through the poem. These words were not just phrases to him, like they were when he was a young boy, but they were real life experiences. He had seen the Lord provide for him when he went through lack. He had seen the Lord refresh him when he was burnt out. He had seen the Lord bring him back to the path of righteousness when he had gone astray. He had seen the Lord comfort and protect him when he faced dangerous situations in life. Like David, who said in Psalm 37 verse 25, he declared, I was young, but now I am old. Yet I have never seen the righteous forsaken, or is their children begging for bread. In conclusion, my friends, I'll say this. To enjoy the care of a good shepherd, the sheep need to be willing to be led. David starts in Psalm 23 in verse 1 by declaring that the Lord is his shepherd. God invites us to be willingly part of his flock, to live under his protection, his care, and his guidance. And my challenge will be today, will you surrender to his leadership and his care so that you may experience his leadership through the dark valley?